All right, let's go.
Okay, welcome back to Dare to Think. I'm Matthew. I'm sitting here with my friend JP, and I guess we're back after months on a hiatus.
Yeah, we are
Is that how you
back.
say that word?
We never left.
Well, we never left, but
Do you feel rusty?
yeah, totally.
I do.
Very rusty.
Okay, it's August 2nd, 2024.
August 2nd, 2024.
Yeah, the Dare to Think has really never gone to sleep. It's just that we haven't
It's been dormant.
recorded for so long. But Dare to Think is something that is that abides. Dare to Think abides.
I would say this is the summer 2024 edition.
Yeah,
Because
man.
there has been some interesting things
Duh.
that have been going on lately.
Yeah.
Like one, the assassination attempt on President Trump or former President Trump. And then you had Biden, who stepped down. And the vice president, Kamala Harris, took his place.
Yeah.
Which I kind of saw that coming. I thought maybe they'd try to stick Michelle Obama in there.
Uh-huh.
But no, I guess they got Kamala. She's not a very likable person.
What do you make of it, Matt?
I
What do you make of? I mean, you just spit out a mouthful, but what do you make of that entire?
I
bit?
think the people behind the scenes that are actually pulling the strings, they just use people like Biden and Kamala Harris just as like pawns, as front people. You know, the public face. So, in my opinion, she doesn't really have any kind of power or influence. She's just she's like a yes man. She'll just go along with the plan. So, I mean, that's how I see it. I mean, like, there's no way that Joe Biden was actually making any kind of decisions the last few years, even though he was literally the president.
And what do you make of that?
I mean, I'm not surprised when when you research and you try to understand how the system works, if you will, then it's no surprise that Biden has no power whatsoever.
Why do you think they put him in that position when he had no power?
Because he would follow the people behind him, the people who are pulling his strings. He's a yes man. He'll go ahead and just do whatever is told of him.
But do you think he was cognitively aware of any of it?
I mean, it
Or
seems
what
like
percentage of in the last 4 years do you think he was aware of what was happening?
yeah, I don't know, 30, 40%, 50 maybe. I'm kind of being generous.
Yeah.
I mean, clearly he had cognitive issues and like early onset dementia.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you watched the last debate, but I didn't actually watch it live. But he was terrible. And you even had like the liberal mainstream media that like really couldn't prop him up, if you will. Like he was that bad.
Do you think that he was that bad, or do you think it was just their way of having kind
Getting-
of like their way of saying, "Oh, we need a new thing."
Getting rid of him.
Yeah.
It very well could be.
Do you think like it caught them off guard or anything, like he was going to bomb?
I don't know if I would say it caught anyone off guard. I don't
Because I
think
mean, they
so.
covered for him for years, and
Oh yeah.
but then all of a sudden they're just like, "Oh my goodness, I can't believe he's cognitively unaware. Look at, we better do something." Like I just don't buy it.
No. Well, I mean, this goes back to what we've talked about since day one. Is the media is owned and controlled, and the media is just really like an arm of the deep state. It's just used to control people's perception of reality. So it's not surprising that the mainstream media was like propping this guy up for years. And it's no surprise that they are turning their back on him now, because I mean, I'm sure that's the narrative that they want to push.
So if he was propped up, who was behind him, propping him up? Was it Kamala?
I don't.
Was
I
she
mean,
the mastermind behind it?
no. I think probably Obama had a huge influence and was really kind of the shadow president, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, because Obama's just a yes man too, and obviously he was installed.
Mm-hmm.
You know, everything about him and his family and where he was born and all this stuff. You know, it's all fabricated.
So now they're putting in Kamala. Do
Yeah,
you think like she's the new Biden so that the people behind her can just keep doing what they're doing and not be seen, or what?
yeah, definitely. I mean, what the election is coming up, we're really close. Here we are in August 2nd. It's kind of crazy. I'm sure they're going to try to rig it again. You know, with mail-in ballots.
Do you
and-
think it's even legitimate?
No.
I don't either. I, I don't think it's legitimate at all after, watching for the last few times.
Well, right, Joe Biden supposedly had 81 million votes, and that's like the most popular votes that any president has ever
Yeah.
gotten in the history of
I
the
just-
United States.
I don't know who would believe that.
And here you have a guy that's like walking up steps and falling over on a bike and can't,
Right? And can't have a public speech, and
yeah, is not
Yeah.
coherent, can't talk. Yeah, I mean, I guess when you like research this stuff over all these years, it's just so plain and obvious. But there's still a lot of people that really truly think that Biden is the president and that he's making all the decisions.
or that Kamala's like the next person to, they're gonna just get behind.
Yeah, totally. And if you look at Kamala and the way that she rose up the ranks, I mean, here we are, we're in California, Northern California, and she was, the DA here? And she worked for the city of San Francisco.
Yep.
And she was dating Willie Brown, the former mayor of San Francisco. And
Yeah.
so a lot of people speculate that that's how she moved up the ranks, if you will, is
Yeah.
dating Willie Brown. And then, you get in with these political people and then they have connections. And then it's also interesting to like look at her family background. And I haven't done an extensive in-depth look at her family, but I did hear something like her dad is a teacher, like a professor at a college. It's like some big university. But
So what are the clear? I don't know. Yeah, I don't want to just pick on like the left. I want to pick on the right too. But what are the clear tenets or principles or beliefs of Kamala Harris? Like, what is she about, straight up?
I mean, I think she's just going for the whole inclusion, fight for women's rights. She's pro-choice, abortion. It's kind of like the stereotypical liberal agenda, if you will,
Yeah.
that she is kind
The
of behind.
package, the package of beliefs.
Yeah.
If you go on this side, you get this package of beliefs. If you go on that side, you get that package of beliefs.
Right. And I think when she was the district attorney here in California, she prosecuted a lot of like marijuana, like petty marijuana crimes.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of people have brought that up
Yeah.
and said like, wait a minute, she's super like left leaning and then she prosecuted all these petty marijuana crimes.
I mean, do you think she really cares, or do you think she's just about herself?
Yeah, I don't think she really cares about anything. She has power. I think a lot of people want power. She's got money. I'm sure she's going to be fairly well off financially.
So when you look at this whole, here's the other question I have. So we had typically in America, there's a convention. There's a Republican convention and a Democratic convention. Okay. So
Right.
is there or has there been or will there be a Democratic convention where the Democrats will,
Pick a candidate?
yeah. Are we anticipating that? Or do you know anything about that?
I don't really know, but I have heard people, online and even people that I work with, that are saying, hey, we didn't pick Kamala. And it's kind of looking like, hey, wait a minute, Joe just dropped out, and now we're just kind of, Kamala's being forced on us. So I think it's opening up people's eyes, and they're saying, hey, wait a minute. Like, isn't this supposed to be, right? Like, the thing on the news is like, fight for democracy. And, it's these words and these phrases that they use to kind of like ingrained in people's heads, like, we're fighting to keep our democracy, and which we're not even like a democracy. We're a republic, like a constitutional republic. So,
well, are we a republic or are we a democracy at this point?
well, I guess a lot of people say that a constitutional republic is a type of or a kind of democracy. I guess it's semantics, and you could like argue it, but I don't think it really matters that much. I mean, it is what it is. I think I lost my train of thought. We were touching on Kamala, right?
Yeah, well, tell me what your coworkers are saying about her.
Oh, yeah, that's why. That they didn't want her, and that all of a sudden they feel like she's just being pushed on them. And a lot of people who are hardcore Democrats, they don't like her. But now they don't have any other choice.
Did they like Joe Biden?
I think they like Joe Biden a lot more because he was previously the vice president under Obama. So people kind of thought like, oh, we know Joe, even though they didn't really know what he stood for, or they didn't really know about him.
We know him, but we don't know what he stands for.
He was in the White House, so yeah, we'll vote for him again. And he's he's very liberal and kind of playing the game, the whole package deal, as you said. Yeah, I don't know. A lot of people can't even really specify what exactly Joe Biden has done in office, yet they say that they will vote for him again.
Yeah, I just wonder if those people actually know what they really believe.
Yeah, I don't think they're really paying attention, or if they are,
I think that they're like, well, I believe in the blue.
Right.
And so I'm just going to be blue.
The phrase, vote blue no matter who.
Yeah. Well, that to me is very disturbing.
It is very disturbing.
That means that, I know that this exists on the right as well. Well, I'm just going to vote red because it's not blue. And it's like, I really feel like we lose something.
Yeah, I mean,
as people and as a country, when we don't know why we're voting the way that we're voting, or who we're voting for, or what they even stand for. Or
yeah, exactly.
We're just kind of going, yeah, it's not those guys, so let's go for this guy. And it exists on both sides.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
And it's like, I can't believe the level of stupidity that we've, sunk to.
Yeah, it's pretty wild. Yeah, people don't know really what they believe. Everyone's just kind of like categorized and thrown into these like boxes.
Oh, yeah.
You have to be a Republican or a Democrat, and you have to fit nicely and neatly in one box or the other. So it's right. It's like sports now.
Yeah.
Politics is like sports. You're just like rooting for your team to
Yeah.
win, but you don't really know why you're rooting.
No.
Yeah, I call it clown world. Some of the stuff that I see on the news and just hear people talking about, I can't even believe that it's real.
Yeah, me neither.
It's like living in some kind of Twilight Zone. But
Yeah. So
anyway,
apparently we have these characters. I want to get to this whole Trump assassination thing.
Yeah, that's a deep one.
Yeah, you may not like what I have to say, but
we're
gonna get into it. But the predecessor to that is this whole theater that's built up to all of this to where we are right now. We have the debate. This is the way I look at it. I see it as a timeline. We have this debate that took place between Trump and Biden. And apparently Biden was Biden. And he's been the same Biden that he's been the last several years. And it's not a shock to basically anybody. But they spin it like, oh, can you believe that Joe Biden has dementia? And it's almost like, we all kind of knew that. Why are you guys just saying it now?
Why did you take so long to catch on?
Yeah,
to this?
and it's like, what? We knew that you knew the whole time. Why are you like now kind of saying, well, it's time to kind of like let him go?
Yeah.
So that's suspicious to me. And then they follow it up with, well, Joe Biden really needs to step down because, he's going to hurt the Democrats and Trump's going to win. We better do something.
It really did divide the Democratic Party. Like a lot of people were like really pro Joe, and then there's like another half that don't want him and know that he's too old and want someone younger. So I guess it's kind of like a strategy to divide the party.
I don't know. This is why we're having the conversation. I just don't know. I don't have an answer.
Yeah.
These are just my thoughts. And then you're giving me your thoughts and, we're talking about it. But to me, it's like they didn't know. I mean, come on. Of course you all knew.
Right.
Everybody knew. The world knew. The dude's literally crapping his pants.
Well, I think that's a huge reason why so many people are not believing anything the mainstream media says, is because they could clearly see that Joe Biden was not, he wasn't able to do the job of president, but yet the media is acting like he's, the greatest thing.
Well, yeah, I kind of feel like they're like, okay, we can't hold this lie up any longer.
Right.
It's like we did it for 3.5 years. We just can't do it anymore. It's just,
yeah, it's way
we
too
can't
blatant.
do it for another 4 years. It's like, come on, really? The guy's done. He was done before he even got into office.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. And then he didn't even get into office, in my opinion, legitimately.
No, 81 million?
Yeah, right. Come on. Seriously. But then their backup plan is to go, well, let's just put in somebody who's a younger version. This is my take, Matt.
Yeah.
Let's just put in a younger, same stupidity, maybe even stupider, but at least doesn't have dementia. She's stupid, and we'll tell her what to do, and she'll do it, and she'll say what we want her to say. But,
right.
She at least doesn't crap her pants and fall downstairs.
Yeah, for sure.
She just, does her, word salad, talking in circle kind of thing. But we can edit that. just like we were able to cover if we can cover for Joe, we can definitely cover for Kamala.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
I kind of think that that's their mentality.
Everything's just read off a teleprompter anyway.
Well,
so
she can't even do that.
Yeah,
Are you
that's
kidding?
true. That is true.
This is like Dumb and Dumber, dude.
She does have some quite impressive word salads.
I mean, I kind of think they do it on part of me thinks that they're doing this on purpose to humiliate America on purpose by putting the stupidest people up there so that the world looks at us like we're like the stupidest kind of society.
That's a good point. I never actually looked at it from that perspective.
Yeah, I think that they're deliberately trying to humiliate America in the eyes of the world.
I mean, they hate America, and that's why they want to destroy it from the inside out.
So, because that way other people who aren't thinking critically in other, quote, developed countries can be like, wow, America's supposed to be the most developed and smartest and advanced, and this is the best that they got to go with, and this is who they choose. No, we don't choose these people. They are chosen for us
Yeah.
to humiliate us. That's my opinion on that.
That's a really good point, and I think you are correct. That totally makes sense. Because they don't want the United States. They they want to open the borders, you know. They want drugs flowing in. They want to destroy the Constitution. We're kind of like the last stronghold that's opposing globalism. So putting people that are complete idiots in charge and then letting the whole world see is actually a really, really good way to just make the country look like a complete laughing
Yeah, well,
stock.
I mean, people. So here's the thing. Here's the irony of it. Is when the ideals and principles of America were first, what's the word? I guess understood throughout the world. Once people knew what kind of a place America was and what it stood for. I'm not talking about Democrats and Republicans. I'm talking about what kind of life you could have, what sort of freedoms you had.
The original
Yeah.
Americans that came here and settled.
What it caused was a mecca, a absolute exodus from other countries all over the world. They
Yeah.
swarmed to America like it was the promised land. And it had nothing to do with Democrats, Republicans, right, left, anything like that. They believed in the ideals and the ideas and the principles of America, and they came here to try to make a better life for themselves and for their family and for their future generations.
Yeah, definitely.
And now the perception that I think is being put out is, oh, why would you want to come to America? Because look at what they do. Look at who runs it. And I think it's almost kind of like to dissuade the people of the world. It's almost like this propaganda message to the people of the world to say, like, you don't want to come here. Look what happened. This is just a big old circus. It's all about greed. It's all about stupidity. All they do is argue, between each other. They can't get anything done. They think that they're a bully. They're corrupt. And all those things are to a degree very true in the political sphere.
Right.
But really the ideas and the ideals of America are kind of getting thrown in the bus in the process, in my opinion.
Yeah,
So,
that makes sense.
and then there's the whole element of Donald Trump. So do you want to lead this in?
Yeah, I guess so.
Like, is he like what do you think about that? And what do you think about, what do you think about that? Let's take it from the assassination attempt, if you want to call it that. What is your take on that day, that event?
The assassination attempt. Well, I mean, I guess I should first say that I have a lot of questions.
Yeah, me too.
And I don't really know how it was pulled off. But it was obviously orchestrated by more than just some 20-year-old kid.
I'll agree with that 100%.
You had things that were very interesting. CNN was broadcasting that Trump rally live that day.
Oh.
And that was the only time that CNN, in the last 5 years, that they ever showed a rally for Trump.
And they happened to be broadcasting it live.
Yes. Yeah,
Isn't that amazing?
And then you had... somebody said, a guy that I was following on YouTube, he said that the True Social stock was shorted. True Social is Donald Trump's social network. So it's like they knew beforehand to short the stock because they knew that he was going to get knocked off. So all these things are just like, showing us that it was obviously planned and there were many people involved. On the flip side, when Trump, like, supposedly gets shot and he stands up, with his fist in the air, and it's like these epic pictures, it's like, if you were seriously fearing for your life and somebody was shooting at you, I don't think that I would like stand up. I think I would hit the floor. So it looked staged. It didn't look quite real to me.
Wow.
And you even had like the mainstream news outlets that were kind of calling it out and kind of, they were getting a little conspiratorial, which is funny because they always made fun of all the conspiracy theorists, calling these conspiracy guys like nuts and go wear your tinfoil hat. So now you have the mainstream media that is actually kind of talking about a conspiracy, saying that maybe the shooting, it doesn't really seem to add up, and maybe, So it's just like the whole dynamic is very interesting. Yeah, I have so many questions, but
Yeah.
I don't really have the answers.
Wow. I'm surprised to hear you say that, Matt, in a positive way. When Matt, you and I have been looking at this, as I'm listening to you talk, you and I have been looking at this for so many years.
Yeah.
And we know how many times these people have pulled these different operations
Yes.
on us.
Yeah.
And so we kind of have almost trained our eyes and our minds to look at those things and to be naturally skeptical, not to say that things can't happen organically,
Right.
because you have to factor that too. You can't just say every little thing is staged and every little thing is planned. However, given the degree of frequency that we are presented these falsifications, these fabrications, and that they're pumped into our heads, what, not to jump to a conclusion, but what are some of your observations? Do you have any other observations, or do you have any other information? Because I'm hearing a lot of different information. I'm looking at okay, so you got the kid,
Yeah.
what's his name, Crooks,
Yeah.
who's supposedly on the roof. Okay, so that's one bit of information. That's one part of the story. Then you have like you pointed out, the rally being
Broadcast
a live which was an anomaly, right? Especially for CNN.
Totally.
Then you have how is it possible for an individual or let's say a apparatus like the Secret Service to overlook a area as obvious as the that roof? How is that possible?
I don't think it is, and
No, I don't think it is either.
That just kind of proves or shows that there was, a handful of Secret Service agents that knew what was happening, and it's just like you can compare it to the JFK assassination, because I'm sure there was Secret Service that were fully aware that he was going to get shot that day.
100%.
It's kind of like the same old
Well,
playbook.
Secret Service, some people think that Secret Service is the one who ultimately pulled off the headshot in the car.
I have heard that, yeah.
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 And that when, what's her name,
His wife?
Jackie Onassis was trying to leave the car, there was another Secret Service agent who ran up and basically let her know it's over.
Yeah.
You're not going to die too. She tried to crawl out of the car thinking she was dead too.
I mean, I think she was reaching to the back of the car to grab his fragments of his skull or something.
Yeah, that's the story, but it looks like she's trying to escape the car. And the guy, I think, the Secret Service guy ran up and grabbed the back of the car. And, if you look at pictures of her and Lyndon B. Johnson at the end.
Mm-hmm.
After Kennedy's been assassinated, there's this swearing in picture. I'm sure you've seen it.
I have seen that. Yeah, yeah.
And take a look at Lyndon B. Johnson and look at Jackie Onassis.
Okay.
And tell me what's the message in that picture. Is it like, well, here's the president swearing himself in, and here, Jackie, you stand here.
Yeah.
I'm sure they, it's hard I don't think it's easy for her or him to hide on their faces like what they knew.
Yeah, very true.
So let's get back to the whole Trump thing for a second. You are skeptical that you mentioned that you think there's either an element of it that was staged or the whole thing was staged, or what's your take on that?
I don't really know. I have so many questions.
Mm-hmm. Me too.
So one scenario that I think is possible is that the bad guys or the deep state that were trying to take him out orchestrated this whole thing, obviously. And then you had like the people who were protecting Trump or his side of things that knew that it was going to happen and like allowed it to happen.
Who would that be?
I think I think the military is behind Trump. And we probably have very differing opinions on this.
Well, let's hear your point of view.
Yeah, but I think the Trump presidency is actually a military operation. And then they're just using Trump in order to like be the face. And so it's really like a battle between people within the United States government, the military, and they're going up against these globalists or these people that want to destroy the country. So, yeah,
But you said that they were willing to sacrifice Trump?
No. I don't know. Yeah, I just don't know. I don't know if he was really shot. I don't know.
Yeah, me neither.
Like I just said, after he got shot, he like stood up and put his fist in the air, and it's like this epic picture. But I mean, really, if somebody was getting shot at, I think I would hit the ground, like just instinctively.
Well, there's also the irony of at the near exact moment when he happens to turn his head. And this is why I think it's legitimate for people to question if it was staged or not.
Uh-huh.
He happens to turn his head at the near exact moment when he is shot. So the ear that's supposedly shot is off camera. Plus, it would have had to, if his head had stayed in the position before he like directed everybody's attention to the screen of stats that he was going to talk about.
Uh-huh.
If it had been like a second or two earlier, the bullet would have traveled through one part of his head through the other. But instead, it apparently, the supposed bullet, nicked through his ear.
Uh-huh.
Which I find ballistically very unbelievable. Given, okay, what they're asking us to, or what they're expecting us to believe is such a, no pun intended, long shot. It's if it's not, and then they want to like mix in the whole like divine intervention and miracle aspect of it. Everything should be able, and I believe in God and I believe in divine intervention, but everything should be able to be questioned as to how likely are all of these scenarios. And given the fact that you and I, Matt, have looked at these pictures for so long, and we have been bamboozled so many times, and I have to fall into the default of what are they trying to sell me this time?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, question everything, right? That's kind of our
Dare
motto.
to think. So I have an incredibly difficult time accepting what they're telling me.
Yeah,
I have
yeah.
no dog in the fight. I want to just know what's real. I just want to know what's true. And I don't I'm not, I'm kind of I'm very against the whole blind Trump, 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 or Biden, 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 or Harris, 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 or blue versus red. I'm against that whole thing.
Right.
So I'm not suckered, and I don't think you are either, by the whole um, just because it's this way or that way. If you're on either this team, like you said, the sports kind of analogy,
Yeah.
to this sports team or that sports team. It's just like, well, that's just not realistic.
No.
And it's a shame that they've dumbed us down to that level, or at least the herd, not everybody, but they've dumbed down the herd to be either. I'm sorry to put it that way, but they dumbed down the majority of people to
Accept and believe.
it's either the National League or the American League or the NFC or the AFC, you know, and I mean, versus like looking at it for just what it is.
Yeah.
Like, how could this really play out realistically, especially if you know anything about guns or that's why it's like these guys that like get up on, they're just like, trained snipers or trained whatever. They're just like, this is impossible. This is such an impossibility. It just makes me think of like, 9/11 too. It's just like, how is this even possible that all of these things could have happened all at once? That a building like that caliber could collapse 10 floors a second into nothing.
Yeah.
It's just like it's so unbelievable. And the thing I've been asking some of my friends is like, is what we're seeing is what you see on the TV or on the screens the equivalent of reality? Have you accepted the screens as reality? Because then it's like, if that's the case, that's our problem.
That is a huge problem. Yeah. I mean,
Thanks for letting me rant.
yeah. That's what they've been trying to do for all these years, is convince people.
Yeah, to trust the screens.
Yeah.
Yep.
They don't want people questioning anything.
Mm-hmm.
And then you can obviously see that because like Google, if you like type Trump assassination, you know how like when you're going into like a search engine and you put in the first word and then it kind of like suggests what you're trying to say.
Yeah.
Somebody was on YouTube, they made a video and said you have to like fully type out Trump assassination for anything to actually pop up. So it's like even these media companies are censoring information. Facebook does it as well, Instagram, essentially like any social media platform.
Yeah.
Or YouTube, like, which we're going to upload this to.
Yeah. Well, YouTube is owned by Google.
Right. Yeah. Good point. So there's just too many coincidences.
Yeah.
There's just, I don't know. I don't have all the answers, but I do know that the official story is not correct.
Yeah. Even if we don't have all the answers, and that's fine, we're probably not going to pursue the question, I think is very important.
Yeah, just to question it, for sure.
Question it. Because and don't stop on that.
Keep going.
Yeah, and because these are days where you're either not allowed to question, or if you do question, it's assumed that you're going to be put in one category or the other. And so I think that that's a psychological tactic to get people to stop questioning.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
They're like, well, you don't want to be like perceived as a lefty if you say it looks staged. And then people will be like, well, shit, no, I don't want to be like that. Well, yeah, I better not ask any questions then.
Well, it's almost like the same thing with COVID.
Yeah.
If you question, you were just like labeled uh, like a crazy person.
Yeah.
They would just say, "Well, are you a doctor? You know, trust science. Trust science."
Yeah.
Yeah, and they just shut you up. They don't want you to ask anything.
Yeah, that's correct.
So it's
On that tip, it's funny because I wasn't expecting to talk about this, but I happened to see it tonight. I was at the store earlier, and it's very common that, on my way out, I look at the little newspaper stack, and I look at what, our communist rag, the Press Democrat, puts out.
yeah.
And of course, they are spouting, the most ridiculous crap. And on the headline, it said like, "Oh, new surge of COVID-19 this summer has been spiking."
Oh, geez.
Yeah. And so, and they said that there's actually, in the little few sentences I read on the Press Democrat, it said there's a variant called the flirt variant.
The flirt variant.
Yeah. FLRIT. Let's look. We got to research this, Matt.
Oh,
and
Jesus.
yeah, the flirt variant. It's a flirt. It's a COVID-19 flirt variant. Now, Matt, when you read anywhere, whether it's on any news apparatus, COVID-19 cases spiking, what does that do to you? I can tell you what it does to me, but when you read that in the news, especially when it hasn't been put out in the news for a long time.
Like what does that do to me personally?
Yes.
I
Like,
mean,
what kind of reaction do you have when you read it, and what do you think?
I mean, I kind of just laugh to myself.
Wow. Okay, I laugh also, but I also have a level of anxiety.
Okay.
Only because what I'm doing, what it causes is it pulls a trigger for me, not that I'm concerned, but that there's such a psychological hold on the group of people around me, like our society around us, our culture, that they're going to believe this stuff without even thinking about it.
Like lockdowns are coming
Yeah,
back, masking
or
is
like
gonna come back.
they're trying to like kind of almost push that little hot button that's deep in our psychosis, our
Yeah.
collective psychosis,
Very true.
and go like, "Hey, just want to make sure that we got control over you guys. Let's push this button," and see like the cases are coming back,
Interesting.
Oh no, and what that does is the reason I have anxiety is because not because of what they're telling me, but because of what I'm afraid how people are going to react, because how they had such control over people's reactions in the past.
Right.
And I'm like, shit, that's going to mess with my life.
Yeah.
I don't want it to mess with my life anymore. And so I have that anxiety,
Totally.
And I hate that the news has that kind of control over people's minds. That's what I hate. I wish our society was different. I wish we were more critically thinking. But at least the perception that I have is that these guys have complete control over most people. And I think that there's evidence for that.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, I think you're correct. Like the majority of people will probably just eat it up and believe it. Unfortunately.
It also raises the question, Matt, because I have known some people who have gotten sick recently.
Oh.
And it also makes me wonder. It's like, wow, what's spreading around? Are they spreading something around and just calling it COVID, or is it something related to? I could be overthinking all this stuff.
Just a flu or a common
Yeah,
cold or
and then
something?
they just kind of slap the whole COVID-19 name on it, which has the psychological trigger to it, that I told you about that actually affects me too.
Right. Well, I mean, when it was happening, right, the flu, the reported cases of flu it essentially disappeared, so. It didn't really disappear. It's just it was
Yeah,
now being labeled COVID.
but doesn't the flu apparently cold flu season isn't that typically not in the summer?
No, typically not.
So that makes me think like are they trying to change that with their bio kind of stuff or is it all just in our heads?
Yeah, I don't
Is
know.
it all bullshit and they're just saying that if you get sick every time it's
Well, you know where I work, when somebody calls out sick, you get a text message and it says, "Oh, cases, reported, blah blah blah
wow.
blah blah blah." But they don't even ask you what you're sick of. Literally, if anyone calls out sick for any reason, it might not even have anything to do with being sick. It's automatically labeled like uh, call out,
Wow.
which is wild to me because it's not true. Like why are we still doing that?
Yeah.
I thought that was interesting. It's yeah.
Well, and then there's also like the whole I've heard people say to me, it's interesting how I'm getting COVID when I'm the only one who's been taking the quote shot. You know,
You're
I've
getting
I've heard them say that to me.
that they're getting sick and they took the shot.
Yeah, and they're like, but then other people I know who didn't take the shot are not bothered by it.
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah, and then there's like the whole separate incident of people who most people don't know anybody who's ever died of it,
I would say that's true and accurate. Yeah.
but many people know a lot of people who have been injured or mysteriously died from all sorts of things after taking the shot.
Dropping dead suddenly.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
that's happened like incrementally for the last few years now.
Yeah, definitely. There was a period of time, probably a year and a half ago, maybe 2 years, where there was like professional athletes just dying.
Oh yeah.
Or even in the NFL, there was multiple players that just dropped and collapsed on the
Yeah.
field.
Yeah.
And these are all guys that are in their 20s and 30s
Well, and
and who
it
are
gets worse than that, Matt. It's like there's that. I'm sorry to interrupt.
no, go for it, go for it.
Well, there's that, but then there's also like people who are like say 60, 65 and over who just died of like aneurysms and strokes and things that are related to heart attacks and blood clotting.
Yeah, I have heard a lot of stories about blood clotting, myocarditis.
Well, that's yeah, myocarditis I think is the inflammation of the heart.
Okay.
And kind of like what you were talking about with the athletes. That was all heart related of them like going into cardiac arrest.
Right.
But I think it was in conjunction also with thrombosis, which is blood clotting
Okay.
and blood clotted related mishaps. Yeah, dude. I mean, I just keep hearing about it. Like I've known people, probably a dozen different cases.
Well, I think
And I've
you
never known anybody who's died, but I could tell you probably a dozen different cases of like people strokes, heart attacks, aneurysms,
huh, yeah.
died suddenly. And I'm talking age range anywhere between like 60s to like my age,
Right, right.
which is odd. Or even younger than that, dude. It's like Twilight Zone because people like can't seem to like put the pieces together.
Yeah, I mean it's the fear element, you know. I mean, it's kind of almost crazy and hard to believe that just a few years ago, like you couldn't walk into a store without a mask and
Huh.
people, you were having lockdowns and
Yeah.
stuff. Like it's wild that even happens. So I think, like you were just saying, they kind of like bring it back and throw it in your face here and there. They keep pushing the button every so often, and then it triggers people's like fear and
Yeah.
anxiety.
Are you guys still afraid?
Yeah.
Are you guys
So
still afraid? We're just checking. Beep.
it's like a total psychological operation.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's really sad that like people are just suddenly dying
Yeah. I mean,
for a vaccine to be just rushed and thrown out there, and people willingly taking something that you have no idea what the side effects are.
yeah. Well,
It's just
so where do you think that came from? Do you think it was long planned, well in advance?
oh yeah, definitely.
Or do you think it was like
Definitely.
Operation Warp Speed?
No, I mean, I think they planned years ahead of time, like years previously. I think you have to look at organizations like the WEF, the World Economic Forum, and like the Council on Foreign Relations, and the like Royal Institute for International Affairs, like all these think
Yeah.
tanks. This is how they move their chess pieces,
Mm-hmm.
like on the global scale, is like using these think tanks. And then the bad guys like have control of, like the health department, or they use the United Nations, and yeah, to enforce all these things.
Hmm.
The World Health Organization,
Yeah.
which is part
NIH.
of, yeah. So all these, you have to look at all these groups. These are the people behind the scenes that are pulling the strings. So, the president is not in charge of anything, really.
Yeah.
I mean, not in the way that a lot of people think. It's like that saying, like, my boss has a boss. Your boss always has a boss. So,
Hmm.
yeah, well, let's see. We were running with the assassination attempt, and then
Mm-hmm.
psychological warfare.
I mean, you just take it where you want to take it. Take the conversation where you want to go. I'll follow you. You want to talk more about the staged assassination attempt, or do you want to talk about it? Was it organic, or do you want to talk about something else?
I don't think any part of the assassination attempt was organic. I really don't.
I agree.
And I don't know how they pulled it off. I don't know how it exactly was done, but it definitely was not organic.
Yeah.
Just the fact that Crooks, the 20-year-old,
Mm-hmm.
who, was supposedly the shooter,
Mm-hmm.
it's always the same playbook. You
Mhm.
always have these young kids that are
Mhm.
going into schools and shooting people up.
Yep.
Or it's like always these young kids. So
Yeah.
then when it happens again, there's no way that it's coincidence.
Yep.
So it's
Well,
just
and
like
the FBI, like they took full control over the whole investigation. So I mean, you're not going to get the truth.
oh sure. I mean, how corrupt is the FBI?
Yeah.
I
well,
mean, there was a woman behind Trump that was wearing sunglasses. She looked like maybe she was in her 50s.
mhm.
And she has a phone, and she was recording.
Yeah.
And
Where's the footage of that?
Yeah, well,
Do we have the footage of that?
probably there is a lot of people that were there at the rally that day that have come out, and they have given their footage to like the media, so you can get like a bunch of different angles of people's perspective. There was one that I saw recently where a guy was filming with his recording with his phone, and you could see Crooks, the shooter, on the roof, like getting into position. Then I've seen videos where you see like muzzle flash, and
Yeah.
it looks like there was multiple shooters.
Yeah.
all this stuff is like the same old playbook.
Well,
So
same with like going back to JFK. It's like there's were there were there multiple shooters? Were there people setting off firework or firecrackers to make it sound like it was gunshots while the other shot was being fired, the death shots?
yeah,
You know, the intelligence agencies, they're pros. They think these things through.
totally.
They divert. They blow up the story of shooter on the grassy knoll when in the meantime the real assassin might be like the shooter in the car. To get people chasing these. How is it possible for to fire a shot either from the book depository or from the grassy knoll?
Right.
Could there have been other shooters? Could there have been multiple shooters that were never, in other locations that would have made more sense for the wounds? I have about an impossible chance of accepting somebody being shot in the ear from that distance with that caliber at the precise moment that he happens to turn his head.
Yeah.
I have and we can't see it on camera because his ear is turned away. The only people who can possibly see it are those in that, those bleachers.
Yeah. Right.
And that's if they're even paying attention. And that's if these people are not crisis actors.
True. There's so many factors.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean,
So
it's just like endless.
Well, it comes back to my original question: is what we're seeing on the screens reality?
No.
I mean, we've been trained to think it's reality, but it's not.
It's like watching a movie.
Exactly. 100%. And it's like, when you research other things, and that crisis actors play a role in psyops, and because they're controlled situations, and then they're just repeated ad nauseum, whether it's like 9/11 or shootings that happen in all sorts of different various locations, and people giving their testimonies, and they don't even add up, doesn't even make sense, or sometimes it's even the same actor at the same two separate events.
Yeah, I've seen that many times actually.
It's like, man, they didn't even bother to even try.
Yeah, it's amazing they put so much effort and energy into planning these things, but a lot of the time it's really sloppy.
Yeah, because it's almost like because they have such confidence that people are so dumb and that they're going to believe that whatever they see on the screen is reality.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
Never underestimate the stupidity of the American people.
Well, or the power of the psyop.
Mm-hmm.
Or both.
A lot of people just don't want to go to that place and think that their own government is involved in these things.
Uh-huh.
It's it's too much for people to even comprehend.
Yeah, it disrupts their idea of reality.
Right. Yeah.
They're like, well, this doesn't fit within what I've been told reality is. So I have to reject it. I think psychologically there's some sort of kind of like toilet, flush, where they're just like, no, this doesn't fit within my scope of what I understand the world to be. So I have to just hit the little flush on the toilet and flush that out.
Goodbye.
And keep going on with my perceived notion of the world.
Yeah, it's true. It's a very good point. Yeah, it's pretty wild.
And then when you have somebody, it was what I was talking about with my friends, you have somebody else who comes in and who's like, a family member or a friend, and they kind of introduce, they're like, let's think this through rationally here, But the power of the mind control is so great in the other individual that they can't even listen to the person who's their kin. Because they're delivering a message that's contrary to what the authority figure or the hypnotist has implanted in their mind as true.
Pretty frustrating.
Yeah, no kidding.
Pretty frustrating. Yeah. And almost downright just sad.
But also like amazing that it's like the psychological science has been developed it's almost like this fabric that can't be
Penetrated.
yeah. It to me. It's like I get frustrated, but I also kind of stand in awe of it, and I'm just like, wow, man, this is heavy duty hypnosis.
Yeah, these intelligence agents have done a pretty good job of manipulating people's perceptions. Even though sometimes they can drop the ball and it's just really bad.
Yeah,
But I mean, I guess since, like you said, we've been looking at this stuff for so many years that it's not really like hard to spot things.
no,
And it really tends to be the same playbook over and over.
Yeah.
So, once you've been looking at it long enough, yeah, it's just pretty blatant.
mm-hmm.
Anyway, I have so many questions, and I would like some answers, but I
Well,
probably don't think we'll ever get
Well,
them.
look, give me some more questions. Let's do a few more questions. Let's see if we can maybe, not necessarily answer all of them, but let's at least discuss what the questions are. What are some more of your questions?
I feel like there was probably a handful of Secret Service agents that were involved in it, and that just stood down and let things happen. They knew what was going to happen, which I don't know how much you've been paying attention, but there has been like congressional testimony and like congressional hearings where the Secret Service were getting drilled. And I think, I could be wrong, but I believe the head of the Secret Service, which was a woman, I think she resigned due to this.
Yeah.
So
was that just more theater, or do you think it was like legitimate?
I mean, it was obviously planned, and maybe she wasn't in on it, so she dropped the ball, and maybe she was just innocent. I don't know. That's another question, really, that I have.
I mean, the whole thing just looks like theater to me, honestly.
Yeah.
I haven't even looked at it that in depth. But
Neither
it's
have
just
I,
like,
honestly.
it's almost like they have to kind of like throw somebody under the bus, make it look like it was some sort of colossal failure on the part of the Secret Service,
Yeah.
and make it look like, oh, well, if we had just not overlooked this thing, then that, I mean, how did the guy even know how to get up there? How did he know it was going to be clear?
Well, right, Andy had to like bring a ladder. Like, what did he just like walk through the cloud or the crowd with a ladder and just like prop it up?
Unless there was like a ladder built into the building or something. But even then, how did he know if when he climbed up there with a rifle that there wasn't going to be like Secret Service people up there?
Yeah, I mean, he was just a patsy, obviously.
Obviously, unfortunately for him.
And of course, the kid is dead, so he can't speak. Right? That's also another tactic they use. Is
yep.
always getting rid of the shooter.
Yeah, 100%.
No witnesses.
Yep. Lee Harvey Oswald.
Yeah. Right.
Or
Yeah.
any of them. They either, well, that's a Manchurian candidate kind of thing. Like they're trained to carry out their mission and then destroy themselves after the mission has been completed. But
yeah.
or somebody else destroys them. So that tells me that there was another gun on the guy. So or maybe it was like, oh, all of a sudden these guys can shoot the shooter from right above where Donald Trump is, but they don't do any. The whole thing is so.
It doesn't make any sense.
No, it doesn't.
I mean, there's been people on the news that have come out and they said that they were screaming and yelling at the Secret Service that there was some guy on the roof. And, like, the Secret Service didn't react or do anything. So it's pretty obvious that there were people in on it. Yeah. So
I doubt that he was shot at all. This is my take, Matt.
yeah, he probably wasn't.
I doubt he was shot at all. He had a dog pile of people on top of him. At that point, any type of Hollywood blood or some sort of pseudo wound to kind of create the illusion
Yeah.
that barely escaped assassination. That's a highly plausible situation as well. Now, some people would be like, "How could you say that?" Well, it's because I don't believe that what I see on the screens is reality. It's quite simple. You only get upset because you've accepted that what you're shown on TV is the reality, and I just don't. There's all sorts of alternatives.
Yeah, a really strange but yet interesting dynamic is what I was saying earlier is a lot of like the mainstream media is calling things out and saying that it looked fake. So
Yeah.
it's very interesting because that doesn't often happen, right? Usually the
Yeah.
mainstream media is they're always going to run with the official narrative and
Yeah,
story.
that
So
is true.
now that they're questioning it, it's like kind of puts a different spin on things.
Yeah, it's almost like they're trying to kind of climb into our seat
It really is.
and kind of like push us out. Oh, well, we're going to be the questioners now. Oh, okay. So
it's
almost
true.
kind of like to take the power away from those who question things.
Yeah, and we've also discussed many times in the past that there's like many like subcategories or reasoning behind these like psyops.
Yep.
There's like multiple things, just
Oh, yeah.
like COVID was.
Yeah.
So yeah, they're kind of like killing two birds with one stone.
Yep.
So yeah, it's really interesting. I don't know if we'll ever get all the answers. I don't know if we necessarily need them.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't know. Here we're coming up on the election. It's like right around the corner, and I just feel like things are going to get even crazier.
Yeah, you're probably right.
So,
So do you think it will be an election?
I mean, I don't know. Probably.
Do you think the last one was an election?
I mean, I think we always have an election, but I think they are always trying to like rig things, you know, with like mail-in ballots, and then you saw it with the 2020 election, where there was a lot of people that were voting that were dead, or there was many people that were voting multiple times, or some people were investigating like addresses of certain voters, and it
Yeah.
turned out to be like a abandoned building or something. So
Yeah. Yeah.
there was all sorts
Or
of
like ballot
shenanigans.
stuffing or all that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So yeah, I think we have an election. I just think that there's so much corruption going on that it's always trying to be like rigged. And
Yeah.
I mean, we had the Newsom recall, and I remember like the news calling the win for Newsom like literally like 10 minutes after the polls closed. And I
Yeah.
was like, wait, how is that even possible? How did they even count all the ballots?
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just nothing makes sense.
No.
Nothing makes sense.
I think it's also another possibility is that they are doing this to dissuade us from, or to cause us to lose our faith in the whole voting process.
Yeah.
As a another psychological tactic.
Right.
It's like, well, you guys can go out there and vote, but it's going to be decided anyways, and y'all kind of know in your gut that it's fake, but go ahead and keep doing it anyways.
Yeah, and maybe if a lot of people think like that, then they're just not going to go vote at all.
That's right.
And that'll kind of like,
Yeah, I doubt. See, you can say that the psychological tactic worked on me, or you can just say that I just don't have the faith in the voting process. But I'm of the opinion that my vote does not matter. At least, maybe it does on a local level.
yeah,
Maybe if I vote for like certain measures or
city council.
yeah, maybe that works. I don't know. I can't prove it one way or the other.
Yeah, I mean, if anything is going to work, it would probably be kind of like your grassroots local stuff because it doesn't have as much as of an impact, really.
Well, it doesn't. It does though, because you think of like they always have a scapegoat, and the scapegoat can be like, "Well, you guys voted for it."
Yeah, that's true, huh?
Like for example, the policy I think of is like, you can. The last thing that happened was in one of the last elections, 2020, or I think it was 2020, where basically it was no longer a felony if you stole merchandise that was under $950.
Right.
Which just basically created a whole crime wave.
I think they worded that so in a way that people didn't even really understand what they were voting on.
That's possible.
It was worded in a way that it looked like it was trying to like help the impoverished and yeah, but I think that's just another tactic as well, is to kind of confuse people, and they
100%.
don't really even understand like the measures that they're voting on.
100%. And like how many times it's just like, well, we need more money to go to schools. That's like on the ballot every time. It's like, where's the money going?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I own a house here, and when I signed all the papers for my house, there's like a school right down the street from me, or actually two, junior high and grammar school.
Yeah.
And I could see literally when I pay my property taxes that a lot of that money is going to these schools. So where is all the money going?
Yeah.
I bet that's another huge conversation, is talking about taxes. Like, we get taxed on this, tax. We're like,
well, and the average person is like, well, yeah, dude, the schools suck. They need more money. Let's vote for that.
yeah.
And
yeah.
so they kind of almost deceive the people either into voting for more money towards something that maybe it's not even going to that, or or I just don't know if the votes count at all, or I just don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. It's like they pull on people's heartstrings.
Yep.
It's like, oh, the kids. Don't you want your children and your grandchildren to have a good education? Why would you vote against this?
Yeah, they exploit people's
like emotional
sympathies and their
and it's the
their
same
vulnerabilities and all
same
that.
reason why they choose these school shootings.
Yep.
Is all these innocent kids are being shot. Oh, we have to get rid of the guns. We need more gun legislation. We need to make it more strict. And, if you oppose it, like, how could you oppose?
Yeah.
Like
You want more kids dead?
Right. And then.
Didn't you watch what happened on the
it's
screens about Uvalde and Sandy Hook? And
it's just gaslighting, really.
Yeah.
And it's just manipulation.
Yep.
It surprisingly works pretty well. Unfortunately.
Well, yeah. Why change it if it's if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Yeah, that's true. But yeah, like everything that we've covered tonight, all these different things, the assassination, we talked about COVID again, the recall election with Newsom.
One more thing, really fast, about the you call it assassination. It's assassination attempt, apparently. I would just call it, stage. But
the stage assassination.
The other interesting bit is, like, this happened right before the Republican convention.
Yeah.
And you get Trump coming out there with his ear bandaged up.
Yeah.
Like the victim, and they're playing that whole victimhood card hard during I didn't watch the Republican convention, but I saw some of the highlights. And the thing that was kind of almost another telltale suspicious thing about me is, or about the whole thing, was when Trump gets up there and he says something like this. He says, I'm gonna recite this situation only once because it's just too painful for me to do again. Almost like, here's the script.
Is that what he said?
Yeah.
Huh.
Here's the script, and don't question me on it again, because it's just, I never want to have to relive this again. Here's my official testimony.
So many people have asked me what happened. Tell us what happened, please. and therefore I will tell you exactly what happened, and you'll never hear it from me a second time because it's actually too painful to tell. It was a warm, beautiful day in the early evening in Butler Township in the great Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. Music was loudly playing, and the campaign was doing really well. I went to the stage, and the crowd was cheering wildly. Everybody was happy. I began speaking very strongly, powerfully, and happily, because I was discussing the great job my administration did on immigration at the southern border. We were very proud of it. Behind me and to the right was a large screen that was displaying a chart of border crossings under my leadership. The numbers were absolutely amazing. In order to see the chart, I started to, like this, turn to my right and was ready to begin a little bit further turn, which I'm very lucky I didn't do, when I heard a loud whizzing sound and felt something hit me really, really hard on my right ear. I said to myself, wow, what was that? It can only be a bullet. And moved my right hand to my ear, brought it down. My hand was covered with blood, just absolutely blood all over the place. I immediately knew it was very serious, that we were under attack, and in one movement proceeded to drop to the ground. Bullets were continuing to fly as very brave Secret Service agents rushed to the stage, and they really did. They rushed to the stage.
You all saw it on the screens. Mm-hmm. It was a sunny day in wherever. And then he gives his kind of play-by-play, like he's reading it off of a script. And please don't ever ask me about this again because I'm terribly traumatized, you know?
Interesting.
Yeah. And people would be like, oh, President Trump, we would never do that to you. Oh, no, we won't question you, President Trump.
Yeah, that's done and over with. Let's not
go back and question anything. And now you all know, and I gave my testimony, and let's move on. And here's my VP, and here's here's my plan, and we need to just save America. You know, to me, it's just crap.
Yeah, I mean, the whole thing's theater, like on both sides.
Big time.
You know.
Yeah, look at this, dude. Look at it. Look at both sides of this. You got Biden stepping down and Kamala stepping in, Kamala, whatever her name is, and you get this this other theatrical over here. Like it is a movie.
Oh, totally.
You know?
Totally.
And I watch people just believing in this, and they're just like, oh, and they're even going to the convention with a little patch on their ear. Oh,
really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, we identify with you, President Trump. We've all been wounded in our ear. We were all shot at because you're our guy. You know, it's insane. It's just crazy.
Yeah, so many questions.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Well, keep questioning.
I don't know the official story. Well, I know the official story. I don't know the actual official story.
Yeah, the reality.
But who knows? I don't know. We probably will never get it.
There is a truth.
Oh, for sure.
There is a truth to all these things. I don't know. Will we ever get there? I don't know. But there is a truth. There is a real truth to what happened. And I think to question it brings you closer to the truth.
Yeah, definitely.
You know, so keep questioning, because the questions will get you. It's like a hound dog. You can smell the fox or whatever it is, and you can chase the fox, and the fox might stay a little further ahead of you, but you're on its trail.
We're on the scent.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
That's all I got to say, Matt.
All right. Well, interesting. Interesting discussion. Here it is, summer 2024.
I mean, you can give your final thoughts too. I mean, come on.
Well, I mean, yeah. My final thoughts really are just that I have more questions, but
Good.
I guess I'll delve into it more. We'll see what happens during the election. Yeah, it's gonna get crazier, I think.
I agree.
But we're watching the movie,
Yeah.
and the movie's about to get real good.
Yeah. Yep, it sure is.
All right, signing out for August 2nd, 2024. Dare to think.
Thanks for tuning in.